Hello, my name is Masha and today I want to teach you how to make this gorgeous friendship bracelet. This is the Ladybug chain bracelet. It's very similar to the daisy chain bracelet that I made a tutorial for a while ago, obviously aesthetically and also in the way that it's made, with the main difference being that of course this is a ladybug and not a daisy. I was originally only going to make one bracelet for this tutorial, but I loved it so much and it was so gorgeous that I decided to make 5. Going into this tutorial, I expect that you know how to make the basic knots. If you don't, I have a separate tutorial for that. And also, if you're just starting out, I wouldn't recommend this as your first bracelet. It is a little bit tricky, so maybe try some beginner bracelets first and then come back to this one. Let's get into the tutorial. There are 3 colors in this bracelet. I'm using black and red for the ladybug, and then I'm using green for my background color. Since we're doing a loop, we're folding the strings. So you need 1 string for the background color, and you need to make that extra long. Typically for a loop, I recommend you do 2 meters, add maybe another 10 centimeters onto that. We're also only gonna need 1 string of black. Keep that at 2 meters. And we're gonna need 2 strings of red, also at 2 meters. I've cut my strings and taped them to my desk. We're going to be working on creating the loop now. This bracelet is customizable. You can make the gaps in between the ladybugs bigger or smaller. Editing Masha here, I originally said 6 knots and I made it based on 6 knots, but then when I was making the bracelet, I realized that it actually should be 8 knots. Anyway, it's a bit of a mess. I recommend making 8 knots. It looks better that way. And if the gaps are 8 knots, then the loop should be 17 knots. So to keep it consistent with the loop and the gaps, you take the number of knots you have in the gaps, double it, and then add 1. So again, because I'm making 8 knots for the gaps, 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. That's how I came up with the number for the loop. So I'm going to be making 13 knots here. This is just the basic loop. I have a tutorial for basic loops. It'll be linked in the card and in the description. That video contains a lot more information on loops than what I'm going to be showing here, but basically you take the color you want the loop to be, which is the green for me, and we're going to be making forward-backward knots with the green string onto the entire bundle. Once that's done, this is what the bracelet is going to look like. And we just fold it in order to create the loop at the top. To still be able to tape it to the table, I like to take some scraps of strings and kind of loop them together like this. And then I tape the scraps of strings to the table. And since this is attached, I tape the bracelet as well. We start with the black and red strings. Arrange the strings as red, black, red. And on the left side, the black string is going to do a backward forward knot on this red string, and then a forward knot on this red string. Same thing on the right side, but with opposite knots, red, black, red. The black string does a forward backward knot on this string, and then a backward knot on this string. Then the black strings do a knot between each other. Since they're the same color, it can be any knot. I'm doing a backward knot. And you want to be quite careful here because you're connecting the 2 halves of the bracelet. Next, the green strings come back. The one on the left does a forward backward knot on the red string next to it, and the one on the right does a backward forward knot on the red string next to it. Now the green strings are off to the side again, we don't need them. And the 2 red strings closer to the edge are going to be doing a chevron. So the one on the left does 2 forward knots. The one on the right does 2 backward knots. They meet in the center, they do a knot between each other. Just a tiny chevron, 5 knots in total. We're now bringing the green strings back because the red strings closest to the edge are going to be making knots onto the green strings. The red string on the left does a backward knot on the green string on the left. The red string on the right does a forward knot on the green string on the right. Now the red strings go off to the side. The next bit happens between the green and the black strings. On the left, the black string does a backward forward knot onto the green string. On the right, the black string does a forward backward knot onto the green string. We're making those dots on the ladybug. Now the 2 red strings in the center are going to do knots on the black strings. The string on the left does a backward knot on the black string. The string on the right does a forward knot on this black string. And then the black strings do a knot between each other. I'm doing a forward knot. And finally, for the last part of the ladybird, the 2 red strings on the outside are coming back, and they're doing nearly a chevron. They're pretty much doing a chevron, they're just not connecting in the center. So the string on the left does 3 forward knots onto these 3 strings. The string on the right does 3 backward knots on these 3 strings, but they don't connect in the center. That's it for the ladybird. Now let's do the separation between this one and the next one. Make sure that your red strings are in the correct place. Because we just moved this one into the center, it kind of points in that direction, and then also same for this one, it kind of points in the other direction. Make sure that they're separate and that no string is crossing over from the wrong side. Very important. And then let's focus on the left side. With the green string onto the 3 other strings, 8 forward backward knots, or however many you decided. We discussed that when we were doing the loop. And on the right side, we do the same thing, but with backward forward knots. And this is the point of the video where you can rewind to the beginning of the tutorial and repeat it all again. Repeat it however many times you like. Get the bracelet the length that you want. I'm gonna go do that off camera, and then I'm gonna show you how to finish this bracelet. Of course, I forgot to film this part when I was finishing the green one, but I'm finishing the yellow one now, and I can show you here. So I've finished the bracelet. These are the last dividers that I have, and now I want to connect them. On the left side, I'm going to do half of a forward knot. So just 1 half, and I'm not going to finish that forward knot, so the string is pointing to the right. On the right side, I'm going to do half of a backward knot, and now that string is pointing left. I am now going to do a full knot in between these 2 strings, and it can be any knot. Since they're 2 strings of the same color, I'm doing a forward knot. And there we go, the 2 halves are now connected, and you can make your ties. I'm making braided ties here, but you can make any kind of ties that you like. And these are all the bracelets. I really, really love how these turned out. I think they look gorgeous together as well as a set. I'm so glad that I made 5 of these. I really didn't have time for that. I'm going on a trip real soon, but I just couldn't help myself. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you make a bracelet based on this tutorial, please send it to me. I love seeing your guys' creations as well. You can do that over on Instagram, or you can do that in my Discord server. The link to that is in the description. I think this is an absolutely gorgeous bracelet, and I can't wait to see more of it. Big shout out to my patrons before I go. I really appreciate your support. It is with your support that I'm able to create the videos that I do on this channel. And if you want to become a patron and support the work that I do here, the link to that is in the description. These bracelets are actually part of a Patreon challenge that I did. So along with the normal Not With Masha challenge that we're all doing, I have a separate one just for my patrons and we're making bug related bracelets. So this was my submission for that, and I can't wait to see what you guys create as well. There's a special Discord server for all my patrons, so if you want to join, you can join at any Patreon tier. My book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, is also now out worldwide. You can buy that any way you typically buy books, or there is also a direct link in the description. It's a photo tutorial book for beginners, going all the way from the basics to the more advanced stuff. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!